The U.S. Coast Guard has launched a new investigation to probe the cause of the undersea implosion of the submersible that killed all 5 people who had gone on a dive to see the wreck of the Titanic. The announcement comes a day after Canada's Transportation Safety Board said it was conducting its own investigation into the implosion of the Titan, which has raised questions about the unregulated nature of such expeditions. The Coast Guard's chief investigator, Captain Jason Newbor, has said that the Coast Guard is working with the FBI to recover evidence, including a salvage operation at the debris site on the seabed, which is about 1,500 feet from the bow of the Titanic wreck.
The discovery of the Titan submersible wreckage marked the conclusion of the search and rescue aspect of this incident. The Coast Guard has officially convened a Marine Board of Investigation into the loss of the submersible and the 5 people on board.
An MBI is the highest level of investigation the Coast Guard conducts and enables the U.S. to fully leverage investigative resources Coast Guard-wide and capitalize on an extensive network of cooperative relationships with international maritime administrations and organizations. The MBI is currently in its initial evidence collection phase, including debris salvage operations at the incident site and evidence collection in coordination with Canadian authorities in the port of St. John's, Newfoundland. During the course of the MBI, the board will first and primarily work to determine the cause of this marine casualty and the 5 associated deaths. The MBI, however, is also responsible for accountability aspects of the incident, and it can make recommendations to the proper authorities to pursue civil or criminal sanctions as necessary.
The Transportation Safety Board of Canada, or TSB, has started the safety investigation into a marine occurrence with fatalities involving the Canadian vessel Polar Prince. At the time of the occurrence, the vessel was involved with the operation of a submersible known as the Titan, which has been reported to have suffered a catastrophic implosion, leading to the presumed deaths of the 5 people on board. TSB investigators boarded the Polar Prince to examine and document the vessel, to collect information from the vessel's voyage data recorder and other vessel systems that contain useful information. We have also begun conducting interviews with the people aboard the vessel. At this point, we are not in a position to provide specific details about the occurrence or about the investigation that are not already in the public domain.
We're looking at all aspects of this occurrence, including any vessels that were used in involved in the occurrence, the registration, the construction, the ownership. Right, this part of the investigation now, it's very preliminary, and but we really are looking at, as I said, all aspects of the investigation, including other crimes.
The RCMP initiated an examination of the circumstances that led to the deaths of the 5 individuals on board the submersible Titanic. A team of investigators has been established with the sole purpose of answering the question of whether or not a full investigation by the RCMP is warranted. Such an investigation will proceed only if our examination of the circumstances indicate criminal, federal, or provincial laws may possibly have been broken. No timeline has been established as to how long this examination will take, but our investigators are engaged and active in this matter as of this morning. Once a determination has been made as to whether or not a full investigation will be launched, we will provide an update at that time. It's going to be a complex investigation. There's going to be some heavy lifting. It's going to take some time.
Right, I'm joined by Sanjay Suri on the broadcast. Sanjay, this entire story has captured the imagination of millions across the globe because you have multi-millionaires who went into the submersible to see the wreck of the Titanic. And now you see, all in the wake of the implosion, all the authorities are scrambling to get some level of information about this. This just highlights the unregulated nature of these excursions which take place across the globe. And when a tragedy like this happens, no one has any specific information.
Well, this inquiry really will seek to find ways to ensure this sort of thing does not happen again. There is a civil and criminal proceeding possible from here, but really the target of that would have been one of those who on board already who died. So the inquiry in establishing any fault in civil or criminal terms could really then lay down through that process the norms to be followed in highlighting the safety measures not taken. They hope to take preventive measures, because this is an area of great interest also to the military, which uses submersibles all the time, and some of them quite small, about this size, even smaller, and they have been in use since the Second World War. And clearly a lot of people will want to come to a conclusion exactly what went wrong by way of safer passages like this, more regulated ones, but also for other purposes to establish a cause and then really to prevent a repetition of this sort of thing.
Absolutely. And at the same time, Sanjay, when it comes to these kind of projects, you have a lot of very powerful and very rich people who go on such excursions, and at the same time you saw the space race, the billionaire space race. They all went into space. It was such a regulated thing. There were so many safety checks. Is there a situation that's emerging where governments across the world are now shedding light on these excursions taken out by the rich and powerful to ensure that at least some level of safety checks take place? Because this is such a huge tragedy at the end of the day, and it puts a huge question mark on the technology also that is employed for such excursions.
Really, these cannot be excursions of Russian roulette. This cannot be, well, I'm taking a flight, I'm an adventurer, will I come back, will I not? There has to be some level of regulatory authority here, regulatory checks to see that there are safety procedures followed. We all take flights and we know how many safety procedures we have to follow just for sitting in a plane, and the safety procedures there have been investigated and repeated at length. So that is a level of safety that we are all familiar with, and precautions we all experience in this area, which is sort of peripheral, and it's a euphemism really to call it adventure tourism or adventure holidays. We don't have such regulatory practices in place. For a start, there are not enough of these flights and voyages taking place, and therefore it's very important to get a fix on it and to get some system in place that everyone engaged in this kind of activity must follow and be aware of.